Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. We're coming to you live here from our studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you our first impression session of our inaugural PSI Presents stream, where today we got to show off Munchkin, the collectible card game, and we were joined with Hunter from Steve Jackson Games. But first off, who are we? I'm Matt.
I'm Josh.
And we are Twist Gaming. Thank you all for joining us today. So, first up, Josh, what is Munchkin, the CCG?
Munchkin, it's a different take on collectible card games like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh!
Which they made a point to emphasize that it is a quasi-parody. So yes, it is still a CCG, but it takes a lot of the common tropes and stuff and kind of inverts them and turns them on their head and has some fun with it in the process.
And it's got the standard Munchkin's humor and art style and a lot of the flavor from Munchkins. And the idea of the game was to make a two-player version of Munchkins, kind of.
Okay.
So that's what we got here is this fun little
head-to-head game that
we played.
So first up, we like to usually go with whoever won the game, but we did 2 games this evening, and we split the bill there. So I'm going to graciously pass it over to Josh, who got his vengeance on me in Game 2, and let you talk about your favorite aspects of the game first here.
So, like, I'm going to say, like, Magic and all these, like, there's 6 different classes you can play as.
Okay.
And each one kind of plays very differently, and that's something I enjoy. So our first round, I played as the warrior.
And I played as the bard. And so the warrior is your traditional go
Smack
head-to-head,
in the face.
smack you in the face, you're going to get damage. Whereas the bard is, besides being jokey and over the top, it is also very indirect damage and kind of trying to trick you into doing stuff that you ordinarily weren't going to do.
Yeah. And then the second round, we played as thief. I played as the thief, and Matt played as the ranger.
And the ranger's you're kind of more traditional big monster, I hurt you.
Kind of like a little bit like a green deck in Magic.
Yeah, it's kind of like a green deck in Magic if you want to compare it to something like that. And the thief is very, I'm going to cheat. Now, that's actually a part of the game, is this phase called cheating, where you're
a bluffing mechanic, and it's in the rules, so it's intentional.
Allowed cheating.
And that's actually, I want to mention that's something I like, because normally CCGs are very competitive, and they're very strategy based and stuff like that. And when you add a bluffing element to it, that changes a game completely. Especially like when you talk about tournament modes and stuff like that. Like normally it's best player, but like if you can bluff and you can't, even if you have a better deck and things going on, like if you do that wrong, you kind of screw yourself. Yeah. So I like that added bluff to that as we can do things. Though I don't know how I like about that's what I need to find. Punch
McFacey.
Punch McFacey.
So we'll get into that in a second.
We'll get into that in a second.
So while Josh is hunting for that card, I'm going to jump into some stuff that I liked here, and one of that is theming is just awesome. So not only do you get a lot of the flair of the original Munchkin, which you could pick up throughout the game. So in the Bard deck especially, it's so jokey and over the top that I just giggled so many times. So a lot of the Bard cards are in reference to songs and such. So we've got the Danger Zone, sitting on the airplane. We've got the chicken here dressed up as the free bird.
Yeah.
We've got the Elvish impersonator. And then going into some of the basic cards that even still have funny themes. We've got a drop bear here. And the drop bear has a mechanic or mechanism where you physically have to go a meter above and drop it. And if it lands on the opponent's hero card, then you actually get extra damage done to it.
Yeah. So
and
there's a slight dexterity to this game.
Yeah. And then another jokey aspect here that I really love. So a lot of times when you're playing these head-to-head card games, you're seeing stuff where it's essentially a nope card. And a lot of people get upset because they're like, it's so trolly when people play nope decks.
Yes.
So they literally called the nope card Trollololololo. So just cancel a target mischief card. It's, yeah. So I love it. Theming is awesome.
I want to show some other cards like
the card shark. It's a shark made out of a deck of cards.
Yep.
Or, okay, so this one was actually really funny. So this is the lame goblin. He's green.
Green screen.
But
put him over the grass.
Sure, he'll go over the grass. That's terrifying.
It is
So,
terrified.
funny story here. It's the lame goblin, and when Josh played it in our first game, which was actually off the stream,
Yeah.
I made a joke about being the lame goblin. Like, what is he wearing a gold suit? And then he's actually wearing a gold suit.
Yeah.
I didn't see the picture, and then I just had to just stop for a second and be like, I'm glad that they have the same horrible sense of humor that I do.
Yes.
So I love it. It's awesome. Like this card made me. It wasn't just like a chuckle. It was. I had to stop and just like shake my head and like, oh god.
So yeah, I like the art, the humor, and everything. It's not serious. Is this the original? No, this is the CCG. So this
Yeah.
is a new game that just came out recently. So let's talk about the card we talked about before.
So Punch McFacey, and this is another cool example because they are taking these character abilities and kind of making them very over the top. So
Yeah.
they're bringing in other elements of the game here. So this one here is you're going to do a direct damage, and then you have to hide a token in one of your hands, and the other person has to guess. So it's just adding a bit of ridiculousness there. And if you didn't see the stream, I recommend you go back and watching it because I missed once.
Yes. Out of like the 8 times I did it.
And I went CSI Punch McFacey and inspected Josh's fists, and I managed to pick up exactly where he had it.
I just
almost
noticed his
every
hair.
time. It's a fist.
Yeah.
I just noticed that too. It's a fist bouffant.
So that was.
Oh man.
But then you also have things like. This is probably one of the creepiest cards.
Yeah, this is terrifying. The hippopede. This
We're
is
back
the
on the
stuff
grass.
This is the stuff nightmares are made of. So yeah, that's kind of terrifying. The hippopede.
Yeah.
He's got those soulless eyes. Death is coming for you. But I appreciate that. That's probably what they were
I think
going
it's also
for.
he's missing the lower half of his jaw. That might also be the other creepy part.
It's just creepy in general, but I appreciate it.
No, but I had a lot of fun. I like the ramp up mechanism of the levels and bringing that from the original Munchkins. It's just kind of after 10 rounds, it's full on. And
We
you
didn't get to 10 rounds.
No, we never got to 10 rounds. But who drew that card anyway? Tom Siddle. I don't know who that is, but it's Tom Siddle.
Tom Siddle.
But I like that this wasn't like Magic where you can get mana screwed.
Yeah.
It was everyone just there was a ramp up.
It's an even ramp.
It's an even ramp, and they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of taking your Munchkin mechanisms and mechanics and theming of the original game,
Incorporating it as best as they
incorporated
could.
it into the game. So we did the runaway stuff. We did all these different things, and I think it did a really good job of bringing that in.
Absolutely. And one of the things, too, is that the game played very nicely. There was a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning, but at the same time, I enjoyed playing it, and I think that it was very evenly matched. I think in both games, we didn't have a runaway victor.
No.
I came from behind to win in the first game, and you came from behind about midway through in the second game and then overtook me and then just controlled it from there. And then you also had your jerk move that you did at the end there. But, neither game was a runaway. I think we played very competitively. And then the fact that it wasn't just two decks that were just beating on each other evenly. It was two very different play styles for each of us each time.
Yeah.
I think that kind of lends it that this game is very nicely balanced, especially the decks that are out of the box.
Yeah.
But you could always supplement with the booster packs and kind of do your own deck building, which I love also just because it gives you the opportunity to put your custom fingerprint on the game, too.
And one of the rules I do like, it's a 40 card deck, and it has to stay at 40 cards.
Yeah.
So that kind of Magic, you kind of be like, oh, I made a really small deck or big deck, and I like that.
It kind of keeps the playing field a little bit more level.
That, and then it's interesting that each class has their own cards, so you can't mix classes. So it'll be interesting to see how the future of that holds, or if there's going to be hybrid classes in the future, maybe. But it also makes it a little bit easier for someone to just get into the kind of deck building thing,
Right.
where you don't have to look at every single card.
Just because you kind of know what cards are going to synergize based off the classes that they
Yeah.
have. Another thing I like, too, is that they actually included a level token. So
I like that the starter box included pretty much everything you needed to play. Um, thank you. Let's compliment. I love the stream. You're doing such a fantastic job. You're totally meant to be doing this. I have to go now, but have a wonderful day.
I mean, it's also let's compliment.
Yeah.
So
But no, thanks.
But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things that I think they did really well with this game. So big thumbs
yeah.
up from me.
So unlike other games, like it actually comes with counter tokens and stuff like that, and it has multi uses to it. So yeah, no, that's. Anything else you want to add before we get into our next section?
I don't think so, but I think we're going to supplement the next section, which is going to be our constructive criticisms, with more positives. I have a feeling that we're going to kind of and the criticisms that I have, I know that I'm going to be able to like justify with. It's a two-sided coin there.
Yeah.
So constructive criticisms. My biggest thing was that I feel like this game had some aspects that were a little more complicated than I wanted them to be, and that kind of goes down to the stash there, and the fact that you have a horde, which is your cards that stay in play all the time. You have your DMZ, your Dangerous Monster Zone, where you're playing the cards that you're attacking with, or you're hiring the monsters to attack with. And then you've got your stash, which is basically your temporarily exhausted monsters, and then your discard piles separately. Yeah. So it was a little heavy to pick up at first because of the number of different zones and then how they kind of correlated to each other. However, I understand why it was done that way. So you have a defense that's basically always there, and then that's separate from your attacking monsters. So that prevents people from kind of aggroing a little bit too fast and making themselves unbeatable in the beginning. Yeah. And then having a stash allows you to be able to still deal with opponents' monsters that you can like whittle away a little bit of damage onto without them going directly back into their hand, but then they eventually do cycle back into the hand. Yeah. So you have the ability to replay cards, and since it is a small deck, it's only a 40 card deck and you can't go bigger than it, it's nice that you're not reliant on just top decking cards that you need all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll talk about that. Be interested to see how a few strategies work out of just low cost monsters.
Yeah.
If you just did zeros, ones, and twos and just get piling them on, be very interested to see how that's possible negative. I'm not even gonna say this negative. This runs longer than your typical Magic game.
Might be the fact of how we play.
Might be the fact how we play, also with the stream and stuff. But I'm a little bit more. It's a longer game, and that's not a negative. It's just a little bit longer than our typical.
Yep.
The style game.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not a negative. The rules that come in the box are not the best. They're a little wordy and over. I think they try to over-explain things and don't give you a general. This is how you play, and then these are more advanced rules kind of thing. And I feel like that's how it should have been written a little bit more.
Okay.
And as you said, there's a lot of zones. I would have loved to see a player mat. And,
yeah.
I don't think one exists yet, and that would be nice.
I think that would definitely have alleviated a little bit more of my issue with the multiple zones if there was a player mat that not necessarily had like I want a spot for each of these cards, but just like an area so it kind of guides you into where everything is going and allows you to kind of keep more of a visual eye on what your opponent's doing.
Yeah. And then the last little minor thing, these starter boxes are awesome.
Yeah.
It comes with 2 decks and everything. I wish it came with deck boxes to hold the cards. There is no deck box, so the cards just you put them loose in the box, or you get a deck box. A little tuck box wouldn't have been.
I could see where that would have been very beneficial.
It's not a big issue, but it would have been nice. The player mat thing. Do you find it was harder because you had to play sideways?
Yes.
A little.
It is harder because we had to play sideways, but
I think
it still would have been
learning
nice.
the game, it would have helped.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of zones. They have the video they have is pretty decent. Their how to play video. Gameplay. I probably should have looked for a gameplay video too. That probably would have done a couple things, but there's a couple of rules that I still need to
clarify
on and stuff like that. So all things like I played that one thief card where I didn't understand what bleeding was.
Yes.
and I played that early. That was on me, and I actually set it up. So I kept trying to set it up when I shouldn't have done that.
Note also that there is a quick reference terminology guide in the rulebook too.
Yeah.
That kind of shows you what some of the major definitions are.
Yeah. Just I didn't notice what that was.
And finally, I think I would have liked maybe with each starter deck a quick reference card that kind of had the turn order actions or the order abilities. I don't think it's necessary just because CCGs don't typically come with something like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been.
It would have been nice from my perspective, but again, that's completely an extra accessory that I could live without.
Yeah, most of the thing is just like kind of ramping up and making sure everything is good.
But yeah, I don't want any of those criticisms to detract from the fact that we will be playing this game again.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the next question. I think it's a moot point, and it's that normally it's would you play this game again? I think it's when are we going to play this game again? And what are you doing tomorrow, Josh?
I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow.
All right.
Getting ready for Stream Anniversary.
Yeah. All right. So I think, Josh, we're just for the sake of doing it. Would you play this game again?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. No, this is some like Matt and I pull out Magic every now and then. I could see us definitely pulling this out, especially when we have a little bit more time than Magic.
Yeah.
Just because of that player aspect, it's a little bit longer. But yeah, this is something I definitely would play again. I know there's a 3 and 4 player variant. I'm curious what that is.
I would love to see what the 3 and 4 player variant is, and that's definitely this is a game that I will want to play again for sure. I'm already thinking about the next time I want to play it, and I'm eyeing those booster packs right there because I want to go and I want to start playing with different builds right now. All right, so Josh, is there anything else that you want to talk about this evening?
I think that's it.
All right, so thank you all for joining us. This was another first impression session and this is actually our premiere PSI Presents, and we showed off Munchkin, the collectible card game. If you haven't had the chance, go and watch our video on demand where we did the playthrough. We had 2 playthrough games, where the first one we played Warrior versus Bard, the second one we played Thief versus Ranger. So definitely go check that out if you want a little bit more in-depth look at what the game plays like. But again, thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again. I'm Matt.
I'm Josh.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.